Tonight, on The Good, the Bad, and the Unknown, Christopher Lloyd becomes an uncle, goes commando, and gets needlessly interactive. Roll the intro. Hello, boys and girls, your old friend RJ City, and I'm back with another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Unknown, where I take one artist and find one work of theirs that I like, one that I don't, and one that maybe not a lot of people know about. And last week we talked about Danny DeVito, so this week it's only logical that we talk about someone who Danny worked with many different times in many different ways, Christopher Lloyd. He was born Christopher Allen Lloyd in 1938 in Stamford, Connecticut. His maternal grandfather was actually one of the founders of the Texaco Oil Company. Oh no. He worked through summer theater on the East Coast, he trained under Sanford Meisner, and then he broke into off-Broadway and on. But his first movie role was that of Max in the forever acclaimed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Of course, he then played Jim Ignatowski on Taxi, not to mention Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Doc Brown in Back to the Future. But my pick for the good is another well-known movie that we just must talk about, 1991's The Addams Family. It, of course, stars Angelica Houston, the wonderful Raul Julia, Christina Ricci, and Christopher Lloyd as Uncle Fester. It took a while for the studio to even buy the rights to make it because The Addams Family was just not as hot of a property as it is today. The original cartoon strips were not as big as something like Peanuts, and the original TV show was nowhere near the level of syndication that something like The Munsters was at the time. For something that ended up with a big budget, it still went $5 million over budget and had a lot of problems while filming. The director of photography quit with 3 months left to film, Barry Sonnenfeld's wife fell ill, and Raul Julia had a blood vessel burst in his eye. Angelica Houston's eyes were taped back, causing her tremendous pain and the inability to turn her head. And Grandmama's latex makeup was so painful that Judith Malina allegedly dealt with the pain by smoking an endless stream of joints in her trailer. Also, Orion, the studio that was producing, ran out of money and had to sell the movie to Paramount in the middle of filming. You would think that this has all the makings of a disaster, but the movie turned out to be a huge box office hit and single-handedly revived the Addams Family property. Originally, the role of Uncle Fester was offered to Sir Anthony Hopkins, who turned it down before Christopher came aboard. As you may have seen, Christopher is quite a slender fellow, so Bruno Kirby lent Christopher the fat suit that Bruno used in The Godfather Part 2 so Christopher could play Fester. In the movie, Christopher starts off as a giant man-child named Gordon, who bears a striking resemblance to Fester, who actually went missing in the Bermuda Triangle. Interestingly enough, in the TV show, Fester is Morticia's brother, but in the movie, he's Gomez's brother. Gordon's mother forces him to impersonate Fester to infiltrate the Addams Family mansion and gain access to their fortune. In the original script, the movie ended with the Addams Family just adopting Gordon as the new Fester, while the old original Fester still remained lost at sea. However, fearing that this wouldn't be the most pleasant ending for a family film, the entire main cast banded together and got young Christina Ricci to speak to Barry Sonnenfeld and get the ending changed. Barry agreed, and at the end of the film, it's revealed that Gordon was actually the real Fester all along, but Gordon's mother found him with amnesia and convinced him that he was Gordon. Sure. Here's why this movie works so well as a reboot. In the original TV show, Gomez, played by John Astin, is basically a glorified Groucho Marx, and Fester, played by Jackie Coogan, is kind of like Curly from the Three Stooges. But both Raul Julia and Christopher Lloyd have completely different takes on both characters, although they keep a lot of the same elements. There is a depth and uniqueness here, as with the whole movie, that really has not been replicated since. Also, the mamushka is fucking amazing. So the good was the Addams Family, and the bad, well, let's just say that Christopher Lloyd does not seem that discerning in all of his choices, and nor does anyone else in this film. It is 1991's Suburban Commando. In 1991, Christopher Lloyd filmed Back to the Future: The Ride for Universal Studios, then Suburban Commando, then The Addams Family. What a tumultuous year. The movie stars Christopher Lloyd and Shelley Duvall as a husband and wife who lease a room to Shep Ramsey, played by Hulk Hogan, who turns out to be an intergalactic space warrior on vacation who crash landed on Earth and knows nothing about the planet. Christopher is trying to get a raise from his boss, played by Larry Miller, and Shep is followed by alien bounty hunters, so hilarity and sci-fi action ensue. Ironically, this movie was first offered to the pair of Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was then titled Urban Commando, about a human commando with no science fiction elements at all. But when that duo passed on it to make Twins, the movie was bought and altered by New Line Cinema, who wanted a follow-up to Hulk Hogan's first film, No Holds Barred. And yes, if you're playing 6 Degrees at home, both Shelley Duvall and Christopher Lloyd have starred in movies with Jack Nicholson. Shelley, of course, in The Shining, and Christopher in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Going South, which also had Danny DeVito. This movie seems to be made on the cheap, because there are a lot of reused guns from Masters of the Universe, and a honing device they use in the movie is blatantly the PKE meter from Ghostbusters. Also in this movie is Mark Calloway, sometimes referred to as The Undertaker. Supposedly, he signed on to do this movie around the same time he signed on with the WWF, although he had not yet appeared on TV. Maybe the idea was that they could do what they did with Zeus in No Holds Barred and turn their on-screen feud into an in-ring one. Though that never happened, by the time Suburban Commando came out, The Undertaker was actually feuding with Hulk Hogan, though they made no mention of their movie relationship at all. Not surprisingly, this film did not do well at the box office or with critics, currently sitting at 15% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, if you want to see Christopher Lloyd be continually flabbergasted by Hulk Hogan, this is the movie for you. So the good was The Addams Family, the bad was Suburban Commando, and the unknown is unknown because it was technologically ahead of its time, 1995's Mr. Payback, an interactive movie. That's the full title. The reason that this is an interactive movie is because each seat in the movie theater was outfitted with 3 buttons for people to vote on what they wanted to happen next. Your seat would then electronically send this information to the projection booth, where the movie would play whatever won the vote. So it was essentially the first choose-your-own-adventure movie. Eat shit, Bandersnatch. Depending on what you vote for, the movie is only 20 to 30 minutes long, but the idea was that the movie theater would just let you stay in the theater and keep playing it so you could vote for and see all the other options. The premise is that Billy Warlock is Mr. Payback, a heroic android. Each of the 3 storylines has him encountering very evil, bad people, and you can vote on things he does, and then you can vote on how you want the evil people to be punished at this big game show segment at the end of the movie. Christopher plays an evil CEO from the South who is incredibly racist and mean to his employees. And one of his possible punishments is like him dressing up like a maid and serving his employees. It was riveting stuff. As you can perhaps surmise, the movie is unknown for a couple of reasons. One, it wasn't very good and didn't do so well. Roger Ebert gave it half a star. It's also really expensive to put remote controls on every seat in a movie theater and then expect people to want to sit there and constantly rewatch parts of a movie that they had already seen. Furthermore, since the entire concept was basically useless on VHS, the movie was only available on Laserdisc for the longest time. It came out later on DVD, but by then, what's the point? But if you want to argue with 30 other people you're sitting with about wanting to see Christopher Lloyd dress up as a maid, this is the movie for you. So the good was The Addams Family, the bad was Suburban Commando, and the unknown was Mr. Payback, an interactive movie. I am RJ City, and this is what I've chosen to do with my life.
Guests of the RJ City Show, subscribe to his channel, follow him on social media, and buy his t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/RJ City.